Hello and a very warm welcome to Skillsoft presents ETStudios HR Connect in association with ETHR World. I'm your host Hemanshi Tewari. Now in this rapidly changing world, how are CHROs taking care of the workforce transformations? How are they guiding their employees and of course themselves through this rapid transitions and of course transformations? Now this is exactly what we're going to talk about in this panel, and joining me are Rohit Shenoy, who is the Director HR Global L&D at DXC. We are also joined in by Atma, who is VP HR at Atma Group, and of course Ankur Gupta, who is VP Marketing at Skillsoft. Now gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we have been talking about a lot in most of the panels, and of course we have been talking to each other about how the world is changing so rapidly. There are rapid technological advancements, right? And at this point in time, workforce transformation is taking the center stage. So as yourselves, like you are the HR leaders, how are you guiding your workforce through this transition and preparing themselves to be more agile and also adaptable? Maybe we'll start with you.
Great. So workforce transformation isn't something new. We'll all vouch for that. Every few months now, there's been something coming up and something new, and we say, this is going to change everything. So a few years back, it was blockchain will change everything. Yeah. Then it was like metaverse will change everything. So as leaders, we also need to know what is a hype and what is a real trend and what's going to change. For example, I will say the word which people don't want me to say, which is AI. So because all panels, we start with that. But that's a trend that's not going to go, AI and Gen AI. And how do we know that? With the increase in computing power, with the markets, how the markets are going, and with what's happened with algorithms and the advancement in data science. All of that feeds into this trend. So that's not going anywhere. And that's not also a trend, but that's going to change everything. So if we don't see that and ignore that, then we're going to be out of business and all our people are going to be out of jobs. It's not like AI will take off humans, but humans who don't have AI and don't understand Gen AI, their roles will be taken over by those who do. So our role is, I see that as both a push and a pull. So it's what they call a pin under the seat. You need to put that so that people are not too comfortable that the way they are, and also look at what's the destination, where do we get there, and constantly doing that. And that is not technology dependent, that's more a culture thing. So how do you continuously do that, and how do you get the culture aligned and get a culture of continuous learning into the organization, and leaders kind of showing the way. The second aspect to that is making the learning process itself extremely simple. We call that silent operations. So if, for example, we have a very simple URL. We had lots of things for learning. We put all of that into one single URL, learning.dxc.com. So people just need to go to one place, and that's where you get hands-on learning, that's where you get your online, that's where you get in for all the other learning as well. So that's very smooth, simple operations, as we call it. So that's just few examples.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And even to you, Atma, you know, you've been working in a very specialized industry, right? There are specialized roles that we are talking about when it comes to your industry. So when we are talking about such culture, like he spoke about continuous learning culture, it can be a little different for you, right? Because the reskilling initiatives or skilling programs can be different for you. It has to be for those specialized roles. So how do you ensure that those skilling programs or those initiatives are made for those specialized roles in your industry?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at the industry where I'm working right now, it is more of a clean tech industry, right? And when I say clean tech, it is not only the renewable, but green hydrogen, green ammonia, everything is green, which we have been hearing a lot about in the recent past. And this is a very new industry. So what is happening? There's a shortage of the skill, shortage of the right talent which is required in this space. And there's not only the shortage of the skill, but shortage of the talent, workforce outside the organization also. So at the end of the day, there's a little scope left when you have to go hire and buy the talent. You have to focus more on the building of the talent. And within that, I will tell you a very specific technology called WRA. It's Wind Resource Assessment. So these engineers, they primarily work on a software where they sort of assess the wind patterns and directions, and when the tsunami has happened, so on and so forth. Basis that they tell you that, okay, you should go to this part of Tamil Nadu, or you should go to Texas, or you should go to, say, Western Australia to put your windmills. That's where you will get the most electricity or most productivity out of it. This is such a short skill, availability of skill, such a short in the market, and also there are no trainers available. So when I talk about not such a popular skill, but the most relevant skill, say MS Projects or MS Excel, you will find a lot of trainers who are available in the market. But when I talk about, say, WRA, usually there are no people or no trainer or no institutes which are available in the market, which is what government is also focusing on a lot. So you look at Council for Green Jobs, you look at NSDC, you look at this PM Kaushal Yojana. Everybody is trying to address these skill gap issues, because we have, not only in India but across the globe, we have these net zero targets in a couple of years. So to meet these targets, the entire industry is evolving. So it has become a huge challenge and also an interesting problem to solve for the HR professionals in this.
Yeah, in terms of skilling as well. No, absolutely right. And coming to you, Ankur, when we are talking about these reskilling initiatives, of course, these initiatives should be engaging and effective for employees, right? If they are engaging, then you are like half of your job is done, right, with these skilling initiatives. So what technological innovations and what technological advancements are there in this space to make those skilling initiatives more engaging and also effective for the employees?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to start with a strong statement that nobody is upskilling or learning for the sake of it. I think gone were the days. I think we used to do learning as fun activity or something will come out of it. I think it has to be very purposeful driven, right? A lot of learning has to be purposeful driven, whether it's from an organizational perspective or that individual perspective, right? Earlier, we are putting in a class and we will kind of do because organization wants that way. Other than probably the compliance set of trainings, which everybody has to go through, you are really looking at what's there for me, right? And that's kind of surely opens up in terms of how and where I should be spending my time. Now, is a technology platform helping me to do that? Or I'm not saying technology platform, it's an ecosystem. Because we are really not talking about, people are of very different type of learners. And when they are very different type of learners, there is an option which they look at in this ecosystem, which gives me that multimodality. You know, somebody can read books, somebody can watch short videos, somebody wants to do very interactive hands-on kind of a play, and we all know the 70-20-10 rule. So I don't want to even talk about that, but I think what these technologies are doing today, and I know, Rohit, you talked about AI and nothing can happen or talk about without AI or Gen AI, is that learning which was happening through a little bit of humans in that 70% is kind of happening through that whole 20% or the formal side of it, which is 10. Because the platforms are really helping and behaving like a human, which becomes a safe place for you to learn. So while you have to still do your set of learning yourself, which is obviously bite-sized, but then we are the same set of people who have gone into these long, and I know you come from Netflix, so hooked to Netflix, right? In terms of going long episodes. On one side, we are saying, oh, we don't have attention span and we are 8 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. But when you make it interesting, people finishes 6 episodes back to back, right? Maybe on a Friday night, hopefully, right? But that's what is happening even in learning, because while Netflix is competing with your sleep, I keep on hearing that, but learning is competing with Netflix on the other side. So you have to make it that engaging and making sure that that person sees the value. While that person sees the value, how it is benefiting the organization, because ultimately it is, you are working for an organization and that organization has provided you that whole ecosystem to put your time and money and energy. So that's where the merger is happening, and that's where organizations are really start going into this whole skill based, because for what role, what kind of skills I require, right? As a manager, not that, oh, I have to go through a managerial training, right? I need, if I'm a manager in technology, is very different than if I'm a first-time manager into running sales or running marketing or HR, right? There might be some common sort of skills, but there are very specific skills, and that is obviously adding to the whole AI, and that's where the technology is helping in terms of personalization.
Personalization, yeah.
And that's what we see.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that point, that learning with purpose. Purpose is different for both of you, because you both are coming from different backgrounds, right? The skill demand is different for both of you. The skills for the employees are different for both of you. For you, you're coming from the tech-driven world, Rohit. You know, the skills are changing rapidly every day. The demand is new every day. So how are you kind of approaching those reskilling initiatives for your employees to sort of get them ready for this changing skill demand?
Yeah. So reskilling is complex, and there's a psychological angle to it. There's a tech angle to it. There's a past, present, future, all of that. So how do you create that drive for a reskill, and why should people reskill? Exactly what you talked about, learning with a purpose. So how do you create that purpose? And especially people who are already specialized in something, how do you tell them that that technology is going to be obsolete and you can't use that any longer? So that's where it's tricky, and it takes a village to do that, and it takes a lot of listening to do that. You need to predict what's going to come in the future. So working with your partners like Skillsoft, who are looking at what's coming in. Then working with our partners from a technology perspective. So Microsoft, Google, Nvidia, all of them who are our partners. So what are they developing? Constantly being in touch with them. And then the third one is our customers as well. A lot of times they don't know what's coming in, but they know what challenges they're facing. So then looking at that aspect as well. Data plays a big role in that. So triangulating data from all sides, and listening is the key. Listening throughout the organization, both digital listening and physical listening of humans. So that's when you get to understand that, and then you communicate that to your target audience, what's coming in, and why staying with the skills that you have right now will make you obsolete. So those are the key elements. What we also do is a lot of initiatives, like for example, we have the Innovation Week. Then we have the, for example, again, AI Insights Week, for example. We look at what are the use cases of AI that's happening within the organization and externally. So that will open their mind, oh, this is what is happening on our project. Why can't I use that here? Why can't we break the time which is required for drug discovery by this much time? Oil exploration, we did this with one client, someone says, oh, we could do that with another client, and so on. So opening their minds through these initiatives, I think that...
And with learning, just to add on what Rohit said, learning is one side of it. You know, having that opportunity to apply and reflect becomes a very, very important thing, because while you are learning, organizations has to start really having whole framework which give them that opportunity to apply and reflect, because that's how the cycle get complete. And that's how you start really looking at whether it's working for me or not. And if it's not, then what's the challenge and where I should be focusing on.
Yeah. You know, thank you for bringing those points. And even you, Rohit, you talked about data, and we'll circle back to you in terms of how data is sort of shaping all these decisions for you. But before that, I would like to come to you, Atma. You know, with emerging technologies, see, you have a diverse background, right? You have seen a lot of technologies in this space. So with emerging technologies, do you feel that we can predict the skills for future?
The answer is, I think, yes and no both. Because when I say yes, we can see what is going to happen in next couple of quarters, right? Say when I say, you talk about, say, renewable space, I will give you this example. Then you talk about, say, you do the backward integration, you go on the module manufacturing, you go to the cell line manufacturing, so on and so forth. But the challenge is within, say, module, the technology is changing very fast. How do you make it more sustainable? That modules which came 15 years back, they would last for, say, 25 years. But if you want to achieve net zero, after 25 years, what would you do with that scrap, right? So the thing is that everything is changing at a very, very fast pace. So I'm always worried as an HR professional whether I'm behind the curve or I'm ahead of the curve. So while I think Ankur has very nicely mentioned about learning with a purpose, that works really well when you are in a setup where probably, you know I can predict the future, and I think in some of the industries we can do that, right, to some extent. But if I talk about the green tech industry, I think it is quite difficult in that sense.
All right, then how do you sort of prepare your employees for the roles of tomorrow?
Okay, so two things. First is there are some skills which are applicable across all the verticals of the industry. Say project management skill. If you want to deliver any project, and it is not only for, say, green, but for the tech and pharma or FMCG industry also, that you have to deliver to the client in a certain timeline. That is one very basic skill where can you, as an individual, sort of, put a project in place? Can you really track what are happening? Which department is doing at, performing at what capacity? What about procurement? What about engineering? What about the customer relationship? So on and so forth. So these skills are more, I would say, useful skills in these days, because they will not only make you help in getting things done in the business you're working in, but these skills will also help you as an individual to survive, across changing organizations. When I say changing organization within the organization, because every industry, every organization is evolving so rapidly that you have to build these core skills. And sometimes we don't talk about some of the skills, and these are the skills which, how do you deal with teams, how do you influence with authority, how do you influence your clients, how do you sort of work very well with the government and with the partners like Skillsoft. So these skills, I think, are never dying skills. They have always been relevant, and they will be more than relevant ever.
And absolutely, and just to add on what Atma you beautifully put up, there are obviously in different industries, especially the new age industries, there are a lot of ambiguity and a lot of things which are unknown. And that's same with AI, right? Because you don't know. There is a portion of skills which is very unknown, where you can make some good guesses, and there are a lot of data, a lot of people are doing research, so you obviously pull that up, and that is. But then you still, those are only a small 10%, 20% of those skills. There are a lot of other skills which we either have or we don't have. Like creative thinking, nobody has taught us. In today's colleges, in some of them, problem solving skills, we have learned it over in that experience, but there is a lot of skills which are required for the futuristic roles. Like if you look at the World Economic Forum's 2030 report, look at the top 10 skills. 8 are very human, not soft skills. I love soft skill because of Skillsoft, but they are power skills, right? So those are the skills which are required. As Atma, you said, project management is one of them. Those skills, learnability itself, right? Resilience, obviously, COVID has shown us a lot more. So there are a lot of those skills which either people have or are they lower in the benchmark, and people has to start focusing on that. There will always be the new age skills, which is unknown, and that's where organizations kind of go deeper, and those are very technology in one sense for a technology company, or in an industry, it is a technical skill, which is very, very particular and changes with government regulation. So I think we have to look at that way, but then overall organizations, because you are really not talking about the top specific edge kind of employee, you're talking about the overall development, because in certain industries, it's very hard. Atma kind of alluded to it earlier, saying that there is no people, right? And those are the people, either they become too expensive or they don't even exist today. Now you have to make them, and you want to let go a certain set of people which you have and hire new which are not there. So I think that's a trade-off, and you end up doing a lot of upskilling, and that's where we are seeing with the fast change, people focus a lot more on. When I say upskilling, and I'm including reskilling as well, because you have a core set of skills which can be transferable. I can be a marketing leader, and maybe after 5 years, I don't know what I will be doing, but there is a set of skills in the last 25 years which I have collected, and that might be adding up with some newer skills. I think I did talk about that first 10 years, the Philip Kotler book worked beautifully in my career. After that, it was all technology, right? A lot more digital and a lot more. The 4 Ps became 7, and I don't know how many. But there are so many things which is kind of adding up. And today we live in a world of impact, right? So marketing is not about activity. It's about what's coming in and what's the impact. Similarly, HR, similarly L&D, I'm sure.
And Atma demonstrated a great skill, which is a meta skill, which is learnability, learning how to learn. He's new in the sector, but he's got such depth in such a short time there. So that's a key skill as well. Which
adaptability,
is
learnability.
Learning how to learn.
Learning how to learn. No, absolutely. Now we all will now perhaps follow Atma.
Yeah.
You know?
I am a big follower of him also. From very long time.
Yeah. All right. Ankur, you were talking about these soft skills. Even you were talking about the soft skills. So when it comes to both technical and soft skills, they both are important for a well-rounded development, right? So now we know that we need these skills, but how to sort of integrate both of these skills into the reskilling or upskilling initiatives? How can we do that?
So as a philosophy, I think our philosophy as Skillsoft has been a learning organization, right? And We are not create a technology and let's apply it to learning. That's what we are. Our core has been core learning. And obviously we have done things around it, right? If you look at between what we have seen a shift, and this is my personal experience talking to various CLOs of especially technology companies, when a decade back, they used to only say, oh, the person needs to just know how to code, right? I don't care about a lot of other things, right? But today, that equation has drastically changed, right? Because the coding, the base coding is happening through variety of tools and whatnot, but the person has to, and there's complication coming with remote working and whatnot, but these people are growing in their roles, and lot of that is human skills, which you say soft skill, you say power skill, whatever, these are human skills. So you have to start really thinking about that, we are living in a world of human plus AI already. That AI component will keep on increasing, right? Now, what are the human skills which either I have, which I have to enhance, keep on continuing, or I keep on adding more to it, which I do not have, like creative thinking. Prompt engineering is a great role, but I don't know what is engineering about it, but it is about how innovatively I can think, right? And ask that prompt and trained my model, because then my model or my GPT will start giving and responses which I prefer in being me, right? So I think that is something which we have to start learning. So there's tons of soft skills, but that's where the combination is working together, and that's where the success is coming, and that's where it's a part of the ecosystem. And when you create these into journeys, right? And I think the key is that you can obviously create a library, then you create channels, then you start creating journeys, but that journey has to be very, very personalized to that individual, where that person is and what is I'm doing today, because the skilling has to happen for today also, but then future also. So when you have to start looking, what is my aspiration, which is me, Ankur Gupta, who I want to become in next few years, while we live quarter by quarter and every organization is doing that, but where I want to live, what I want to do. And that's where you start building up. And there is a huge human side of it, human skill side of it, which is adding up. And that's where we have not learned. Unfortunately, those are not being taught even our schools or whatnot. And that's where the biggest gap is, because you can learn coding very quickly. But on the other side of it, from a coding or technology side of it, I think it's the hands-on. And it is the interactiveness. Even while taking a benchmark, it cannot be a multiple choice question, right? It was very interesting. So our benchmark, we do like 700 different skills benchmarks on our platform. And when somebody takes a benchmark, it's not as, oh, one of them is right. The question does not even tell you that how many of them are right or wrong. So you have to be absolutely sure. That's where the interactivity comes. When you do coding, right, or benchmark on the technology side, it's a lot more deeper. Whether you want to learn to code or you want to code to learn. And we live in a world where you have to code to learn. Right? And that's where I think the merger is happening from that interactive. But it is about the reflection, which I was talking about earlier, that are you able to apply that? Is there somebody who's coaching you, helping you, whether it can be a simulator or it can be an actual human, right? I think that's where it's happening.
Yeah, we are talking about the combination of human and technology. What technology helps us is with data, right? It helps us with data, and perhaps we can shape our decisions as per that data. So as you were talking about data and how it can impact the reskilling, upskilling efforts. So same question to you, Rohit. Now that we are coming back to data, how is data sort of helping you to shape your skilling efforts, and how are the technologies helping you to do that?
Great. So I'll give an example on data. So everyone asks about ROI, what happens with whatever you've done in learning. Measurability of learning. So what we've done is we've got a data lake. All sorts of data within the organization comes and falls into that data lake. So we asked the learning analytics team to help us with an ROI dashboard for learning. And we said, do people ask simple questions? Do people who learn more, do they attrite more or less? Do people who learn more, are they more billable or less billable? Are they more, is their utilization higher or lower, and so on. And the analytics team really worked on that data, and now we have clear trends to show that which part of the year are people who learn much higher that they are more billable. And very clearly the data shows us now that people who are top learners, top percentile of learners, write much lesser than the others. And it's like 1/3 of the rest of the organization. And so on. So we have that data which is there. And so these are data-informed decisions. And this is a correlation, not a causation, but very strong correlation, statistically significant ones. Similarly, we look at data for a learning journey, and we say our leaders who are coached, do they talk to higher levels of the customer? For example, if I'm talking to a head of IT, am I now talking to the CIO?
Yeah.
Have I opened, so if you look at Salesforce data, which is a CRM, then are they more larger deals that they have opened? Have they proceeded further in the pipeline? And so on. So you can track all of that data with this, and so it's no more a guessing game for most of it. But this is, each program has a different set of ROI, different set of data requirements, and different kind of an output which is required. Another area is to look at what are the adjacent skills that you can skill people on in order for them to get to the new technologies, because we can't always buy. How do you build people more? And this data helps you with that as well. Looking around the corner and what's coming in the future, again, data helps with that. So within our team, learning analytics has become a big part of it as well, and actionable analytics, where people have it at their fingertips. They can do something about it. It's not like nice new graphs that are there, but everybody who needs access has access to it at their fingertips.
You know, thank you so much for sharing that point. You were talking about measurability, right? And it's so important to measure the impact of anything that you do, right? Because at the end of the day, the business is doing business, and there has to be a business objective. As he also mentioned, learning with purpose. The purpose has to be both individually like driven, career driven, and also from the organization's point of view, right? Now coming to you, Atma, you know, he was talking about measurability. When it comes to accessing the long-term impact of reskilling or upskilling initiatives, how do you do that? How do you measure the long-term impact of your initiatives and perhaps shape your next initiatives or next efforts as per those?
Okay, as I was saying that if I talk about the current industry specifically, so the long-term definition would again change here. It will go to a couple of quarters, maybe 4 to 5 quarters in that sense. What I would say that while there are a lot of government PLIs are coming in, China anti-dumping, so many things are happening. So you have a timeline prescribed to every event or every product which you want to bring into the market. So that is one angle, which is government regulations. Second angle is the timing right? Because you also have some of the other competitors who are also coming in the same space. Third is it's some of the other markets which when China is sort of not there, then other markets are picking up to compete with you. So while you are into that kind of a space, when you have brought someone like on board and trained them to deliver that particular task. When I say task, not a activity, but the project or probably one of the technology per se, have they been able to deliver that or not? I think that would be probably, while I'm talking about it, I'm thinking it also that it could be a sort of short-term evaluation of the same thing. The long-term could be, can that skill be reutilized or rather utilized in the next business which I'm trying to deploy together? What is the fungibility of the skill? Is it very, very specific? Some of the things what you talked about in the beginning, that whether you're learning to code or code to learn. So while I'm learning to code, I would be writing only one code, how to probably design one of the web pages. But when I'm code to learn, I can only not design a web page, I can design probably an application to one of the client also. So I think that fungibility and the longevity of the skill is something which is more relevant when I'm switching from one technology to the other technology, the minor updates within the same business, or say from one green business to the other business, because we don't know whether the answer is green hydrogen or green methanol or biogas. What is the answer to the fossil fuels? Yeah. So once we are, and the switch will keep on happening or may not happen, we still stick to say green hydrogen or say any of the space in this space right now. So while I'm switching on as a business, is my skilled employee or skilled person is able to also can jump from one to the other. I think that could be the long-term evaluation.
Agreed. And I see this as something not very different of what I've lived as a marketer. If you really look at learning and marketing, I somehow keep on relating because these are very close things to me. in marketing we have one as a brand building, the other is a demand generation, right? So always brand building is a longer game, and demand generation is always what's there in next quarter, what's after that, and things like that, right? Which is performance marketing in today's world in that way. And I think the skill building is very, very similar in that way as well, because you are kind of building on one side, you're doing with the employees and all that, and you are building that for a longer term, because there are certain initiatives which obviously fuel through HR and learning, like a DEI initiative, right, or a ESG initiative and things like that, which has a long-term impact. You can't just change, your numbers in a quarter or two, right? But then how you are making that DEI, which is a slow process which goes in, and those are aligned to the vision of the company. And you rightly put, how I'm expanding that business and where is it going. Obviously, it depends on policies and regulations as well as the vision of that industry itself, not just company, right? So you have to look at that way, but then you have to solve current problem, and because new technology is coming, I need developers for that, or I need, those assessment, sorry, I do not catch that, but those wind assessment analysts, right? Those are very important, because that is which I have to create, build, whatever. And that's the reason learning will always remain as very, very specific to that industry, to that company. You will find always a custom, but then you have a much broader segment which can be done from a skill building perspective. So,
You've been talking about these skills, these initiatives, and how are we kind of transitioning to prepare for the future skills. Like we all have been talking about that, but Ankur, we also talked about the well-rounded development of employees when it comes to technical and soft skills. There has to be an integration of both of these skills. So when we talk about the holistic development, when we talk about the well-rounded development, how can companies ensure that they also create a safe and secure environment for their employees while creating that holistic development ecosystem?
Yeah, so if you look at, when we look at a holistic development of any person, and we all live in that world, there is a set of business leadership kind of a skill. There is a set of obviously domain skill. There is a set of technology which you have to go. And then there is a risk and compliance and these kind of things. If you really look at broadly, there are set of skills or broadly into these things. Yeah, some of them might be very specific for a company or an industry as well. But then, and look at the different type of roles which you are looking at, right? Even in marketing, if you look at, or in HR or in L&D, you might end up getting a basic understanding of AI. But then you have to also look at what does that mean from an ethical perspective. So there is an organization-wide on any side of domain. But then for different roles, it becomes different maturity of those skills. And that's the reason today we are not just talking about these 4 categories. We are talking about 1,000 or 2,000 different skills. And complexity is that their maturity, right? That I need to have a foundation or I need to have absolutely master. And that makes it decently complex. Looking at thousands of employees in an organization. So how will you do that, right? I think that is one of the biggest thing, lot of organizations, lot of customers we are working with, is they are trying to solve this. Because we have come from a very role-based, and this role required this kind of thing. And so now it's a very skill repository and skill inventory, because you want talent mobility to happen. You want people to move. As you said, this guy has done this great stuff here. Can he move and open this new center in this new country? Or run this new division which I am opening. And this guy is great skills on the other side, or loyalty or whatever, right? So I think that is one. But then the technology is helping us to build a lot of this, right? And you can find scenarios, and GenAI is obviously helping. Like we have Skillsoft KC, which is a simulator, we say it, because it's tough to say that it's a AI coach, because I would say it's a simulator. And that's where you go to scenarios and you start learning, and you have different scenarios, and it's trained models. It's not just opening a chat GPT and start doing it. You can still do that. And people are going from thinking about LLMs to SLMs, right? We are talking about that how it has to be absolutely trained, how it's absolutely giving me. But it is not about just having that simulation, but what happens post-simulation. Right? Copilot is doing this for a lot of our in meetings, right? Me and Rohit was talking about it, that we are getting these meetings and then there is an action item. Now Copilot is helping. Now similarly in learning, that whole process goes there is a feedback coming in, and that feedback has some actions, and that action is all done. So a manager need not have to worry about that, oh, I need to figure out this guy is not great on this, and or HR L&D leaders, and I have to get this course. But that course is already been prompted depending on what kind of goals that person has, which is, oh, I want to do 30 minutes of learning every week versus I want to do 3 hours. And depends on the levels and depends on all of that. So I think those are the things which are helping as creating a safe place for work, for learning as well, and really continuously building and engaging, because you are part of that game. You have to be part of the game to continue to play it. Yeah, if you're just watching, because I've played golf, and Tiger Woods do it fantastic, but just keep on watching Tiger Woods. I will not play those shots unless I go in.
Yeah. I think very interesting when you talked about jobs and skills. Somebody has told me last week, I was talking to this person, he told, as regional head for one of the organization, that all jobs will become redundant one day, but the skills won't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that's beautiful point actually. But, when we talk about learning and development initiatives, a lot of industry recognized technology and vendor certifications are there. So first of all, do you recommend that? And if yes, then how do you sort of encourage or support your employees to pursue those certifications? Because at the end of the day, that's going to solve the purpose for both of the employees and as well as the organization, right? Maybe we'll start with you, Rohit.
So for our industry, certifications are very, very essential. We track them very well. So we have almost reached 100,000 certifications, 100,000 live certifications right now. And we have lots and lots of events. For example, we have something called the Certification Celebration Month. So we celebrate that, and we had quite a few thousand certifications there. What we also do is partner with each of these partners that I was talking to you about, Oracle, Google, Microsoft, AWS. We have a very special partnership with them where they train and then we partner and sell together to customers. So we've got 5,000 people certified there as well. So people seamlessly go into partner certification portals and then get certified there. And we track it. And we also have some teams who look at certifications and say, okay, last certification this person did in SAP is 3 years back. Now this new BTP model has come in. So how do we get them certified on this? And they do very segmented connects with those people, saying, and then look at, you're now certified on this, can you get a project here? That might not happen immediately, but when you look at, eventually, when you get that certification, then you apply that learning, then you can apply, and that completes the cycle for it. And then you go on to the next one. So that's where the culture comes in, where people don't sit through with that and then...
the culture of continuous learning that you were talking about, right? And even to you, Atma, now the same question, when it comes to industry recognized technology or vendor certifications, what's your perspective on this? And how are you sort of encouraging your employees, or can organizations encourage their employees to pursue such certifications?
Okay, sure. So I will answer this question in two different parts. First, I will talk about the organization per se. So I talked about with resource assessment, right? And we need more organizations, more players in the market who can train people, and so we can get more and more ready people across different technologies. This is one part. And if I talk about Netflix, where I was working earlier, so Netflix does a lot of these certification courses for the industry wide, that, okay, how do we can have better script writers, how can we have, so we started something when I was there. India doesn't have typically a concept of music supervisor. So you have studio, which is Netflix, then you have a production house, say Dharma or Yash, they do all these series and films. Then you have the music houses like your tips and all these things are there. But again, I talked about something called a program manager or project manager, who is making sure that all of them are delivering on time, and there are strict timelines to deliver a series or a film, right? So there's a concept of music supervisor, very popular in the US market, but is not there in India. Something which Netflix, when I was there, we introduced it. We sort of picked up people who were keen in learning those skills, who comes from a music background, but are more of program managers per se. We train those people and they've been deployed. They are either working with Netflix or other studios which are there in the market. So that is the one part of, so I think certification, to your answer, are a must. If I talk from a personal level as an individual, where you talked about learning with a purpose, I think it is very, very important, because all of us either went to school before we started working in HR, or going to a school is must for most of the skills which we have in the market. It's not a mandatory requirement. But what could be the better replacement of if you haven't been to the school which is required, engineering school or a medical school or a pharma school, is the skills. That's where the certification comes handy. If I want to switch to probably say in sort of analytics, and some of the people I know who keep on jumping from say HR to analytics to finance to marketing, so on and so forth, certification comes super handy in sort of switching the career at some point of time whenever you feel like.
And what we have started seeing is that certification is not going away. I think that certificate of a college or a degree and all of that, while that is not going away, but what value you get out of it is obviously in question. And whether you are going there for study or creating groups and networking and learning social skills, I think that is a lot of debate happening. But on that certification, I think it's very important for organizations, and what we are seeing, which is a key requirements comes in, that how easy you make it like us. One is the journey, right? Because people, that whole inventory of skills and what they have and what kind of certification they should be taking, where they probably have a chances to get better. So one is in terms of identification and getting them prepared for those certification, because certification means there is a cost. There is a huge money which vendors charge for appearing to that certification. Now, who are these people? Why should organization pay, and to whom organization should pay that certification? And can you make that process very seamless? Right? Because on one way, if I need to do certification, I'll go here at some place learning, I read a book, I do stuff, and then go to a vendor site and do stuff like that. But can you make that seamless? Can you make a whole ecosystem which makes this whole certification process much more easier and create a great experience, and which will improve the chance of that person getting the certificate? Because they're not easy certificates. They are not easy. These are very technical certificates, and that's the reason there is so much of value of it. So I think that's where we are working on. And we have offerings around that, because this is a huge demand, especially in the tech area.
And our top category of learning is certification.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at top 10 courses, most of them are certification preparation, cert prep as we call it.
Thank you so much for those points, gentlemen. We started with how are HR leaders guiding us through this transformation, this transition when we talk about workforce transformation. We talked about the culture of continuous learning. We talked about how are we sort of shaping our reskilling and upskilling initiatives as per the changing demands, and we talked about the specialized roles. How are we making our workforce ready for those specialized roles of tomorrow, and of course the certification part. But as we are wrapping up this conversation, see, Ankur, you have been talking to a lot of organizations, right? Diverse organizations. So what are those 2 or 3 emerging trends you see in this like L&D space, in the skilling space, that perhaps the HR leaders should look forward
absolutely.
to?
And I'm sure they will talk about it, and that's what I learned from other. I think there are 2 aspects of it. One, how you are creating great experience for the learner, right? And I think that experience is becoming very, very important, and that experience comes through multimodalities, through the personalization, through what's there for me, all of that kind of thing. And that's our key. The second thing which we work on is on the HR and L&D professionals, right? How their life can become a lot more easier, because with say AI assistant, with curation, which can be driven through AI, a lot of that manual work, whether it's understanding the metrics data, I think you talked about, a lot of that can happen, and how it can relate from the business results. So how you can make L&D professionals, right? This AI is impacting obviously them also, right? So, or HR professionals, because they have to start working with the AI and have that ecosystem which will make their life a lot more easier and a lot more impactful, which they can showcase.
All right, do you want to add any more emerging trends that you see in this space?
No, I think Ankur has put it very beautifully. At the end of the day, Gen AI is everywhere, right? And it's not. And what I really loved what you said in the initial, you talked about in the during the mid prompt engineering. It's not only important or good to have access to the Gen AI. I don't know how to write the right prompt. If I don't know how to use it, so I think the question is not now to have access to the technologies. The question is how can we marry the human and the machine here, and can for the maximum output and productivity, not only for the organization but for the employees' purpose and wellness. Probably for some other discussion, we'll have that there. But yeah, those are also equally important. because the profit and ROI is one thing, but the wellness and psychological safety is also equally important for an individual.
And ethics on that top of it. I think while we talked about the risk and a little bit, but I think the whole ethics piece with this whole AI opens up a lot of doors, right? And how much? Because we all know that Coke will not share the formula. We know that oil rigs, utility companies, all of those, there is a lot of proprietary stuff which is there within organizations, right? Which have some people have access to it. Now, how will those organizations control that while they're still using open platforms and whatnot, and the whole train thing? So I think there is obviously, and I think I would say that policies and a lot of that framework, which a lot of countries are working, it's not just organizations, right? Countries are working and vendors are working. Those are the things which will help us in terms of it, because we are living in a AI plus human world, and I'm saying this, I don't know, millionth time today, but that's the reality, and you have to accept it. And Rohit started with that. People will be replaced who use AI versus not AI, right?
Yeah, it is not the future. AI is not the future, it's the present, right? We all are using it at some point in time. And when we talk about, to end this conversation basically, when we talk about future-ready workforce, I think before that we should talk about future-ready HR leaders, right? To drive that sort of transformation. Now, thank you so much, gentlemen, for having this brilliant conversation with us. It was really insightful, and we heard a lot of views from different industries as well, and many views from you as well, Ankur. Thank you so much. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos only at Skillsoft presents ETStudios HR Connect in association with ETHR World.